Welcome you, welcome you all for engineering chemistry lab. Now we are going for the estimation of percentage of copper present in a given brass solution by standard sodium thiosulfate solution. So for this experiment, we required the brass pieces, as you all know that, and we required the nitric acid, concentrated nitric acid. Then we required urea. We required sodium carbonate, or we can take bicarbonate, and we required a standard sodium thiosulfate and potassium iodide, then acetic acid. So these all are the reagents and the chemicals we required for this experiment. Okay, now I have already taken the concentrated nitric acid. Approximately 1 ml of nitric acid is added to the known weight of brass piece in the beaker. As and when I add nitric acid, the brass pieces starts getting dissolving. With the dissolution, you can see the brown gas is evolving. That brown gas is nothing but the oxides of nitrogen. So we have to wait till the brass piece completely dissolves. I think the brass piece is completely dissolved in the beaker. Now we have to add approximately 1 gram of urea to expel out the oxides of nitrogen. We have to take 1 spatula or approximately 1 gram of urea to the beaker, which is added to expel out the oxides of nitrogen. You can see now almost the oxides of nitrogen is getting evolved. So we have to wait till it gets clear. Okay, now you can see it's a very clear, the bluish white solid is formed in the beaker. Next to this, we have to add a minimum quantity of water. Either you take distilled water or can normally use a tap water for this experiment. I'll take a minimum quantity of distilled water. So I have to dissolve this solution in the beaker. So after dissolving, it should be transferred to either a 250 ml or 100 ml volumetric flask. So hope it's dissolved now. Okay. We have to transfer to 100 ml volumetric flask. I won't use funnel here. Normally we have to use a funnel and glass rod to transfer the solution to the volumetric flask. I'll add directly here. You should not lose a single drop from the beaker. Again, I'll wash the beaker 2 to 3 times, so that if any residue is left in the beaker, that should be again collected to the volumetric flask. Again, I rinse the beaker. Yes, I almost collected the solution, dissolved solution. Now I have to dilute the solution up to the mark with the help of the reagent bottle, very slowly, and to the mark. Okay, it is dissolved now. We have to mix the solution properly, and this is our brass solution is ready. Now we have to go for pipetting out the 25 ml of a prepared brass solution from the volumetric flask. Here I have taken 25 ml of the brass solution into the conical flask. You have to tap the tip of the pipette to the beaker, base of the conical flask, to take out the solution completely. Yes, I have taken the solution completely into the conical flask. Next, we have to add the sodium carbonate or bicarbonate pinch by pinch to remove the excess acid, or to remove the excess acid which we have used in a dissolution part. I have to add a small quantity. I have to again mix it properly. I have to add this sodium bicarbonate till I observe a precipitate in the conical flask. So the formation of precipitate itself confirms the removal of acid from the solution, which is like acid-base titration. Now I am adding sodium carbonate or bicarbonate So here I can see the precipitate. So the precipitate is nothing but copper carbonate. Okay, now hope the precipitate is formed, you can see. So the name of the precipitate is, as I said, copper carbonate. Now to this I have to add a drop or 1 or 2 drop of acetic acid, or just to dissolve the precipitate we have to add an acetic acid here. The drop of acetic acid, 1 or 2 drop of acetic acid is enough to dissolve the precipitate. As I told, we have to add, we should not add more quantity of acetic acid, just to dissolve the precipitate. I tell you the reason why we are not supposed to add an acetic acid. So since the acids are a good oxidizing agent which is going to oxidize the added potassium iodide to iodine, so we are not supposed to add more acid here, and that's why we have removed the acid by adding a sodium carbonate in earlier step. So now I added the acetic acid drop by drop to dissolve the precipitate. Now to this we have to add 5 ml, approximately 5 ml of 10% potassium iodide. So as and when I add potassium iodide, you are going to observe a brown colored precipitate. So that indicates the liberation of iodine. So whatever the amount of iodine is liberating or liberated, that is exactly equal to the amount of copper present in the sample. That's why this experiment is called as iodometric titration. That means we are calculating the amount of iodine liberated with the help of standard sodium thiosulfate. So whatever the amount of iodine is liberated, that itself is nothing but the amount of copper present in the sample. So see here, you can see the brown color precipitate is observed. So this is the iodine is got liberated. Now I have to go for the titration. You have to titrate the solution by adding drop by drop. You have to add the sodium thiosulfate till that brown color fades to pale yellow color. That means we are reducing the amount of iodine liberated, or the concentration of iodine which is liberated. So then we have to add approximately 1 ml of starch indicator. So you may ask a question like why we are adding the indicator near the end point? Why? Because if we add the starch indicator in the beginning or in the initial stage of the titration, then since the concentration of iodine is more, then there is a chance of formation of stable complex between iodine and starch. So where the sum of the quantity of iodine is utilized in the formation of a complex, that is the stable complex, so we could not collect once again. So there is a loss of iodine. So that reflects or that affects the amount of copper present in the sample. So we are not adding in the initial stage, we are adding near the end point, that too when we observe pale yellow color. Hope I think I got the pale yellow color. Okay. Don't add more quantity of sodium thiosulfate as and when there is a reduce in the brown color. Now this is pale yellow color. So this I am going to add approximately 1 ml of starch indicator, that is freshly prepared starch indicator. As and when I add starch indicator, you are going to observe a violet blue color. That violet blue is due to because of the formation of the complex between starch and iodine, that is the unstable complex. So again continue the titration by adding drop by drop, where the end point is going to be very near. You have to see at the bottom color change, where the color change or the end point is going to be violet blue to colorless. Okay, see it is not yet completely color, color is gone. Okay. Now this is violet blue color is reduces to colorless or changes to colorless. You have to wait 1 or 2 seconds or minutes, see that the violet blue color reappears or not. If it won't reappear, consider the Burette reading is in the end point, that you have to go for the another 2 titrations and note down the mean reading, then you have to go for the titration. The titration part, now we go for the reaction. So here you can see, as we have taken a brass piece which is containing the copper and zinc. So the maximum quantity is of copper, where it is present in the ratio in the quantity of 60 to 80%, and zinc is around about 20 to 40%. So now we are going to calculate the copper. To this I have added in a concentrated nitric acid, so I am going to observe copper nitrate and zinc nitrate. Along with that, the oxides of nitrogen is evolved as I shown the brown color. Next to that, we have added the copper nitrate. To this we have added the potassium iodide. Before to that, we have done a lot of the reactions over there. Then there is a formation of cuprous iodide. Then this iodine is got liberated. The whatever amount of iodine liberated is exactly equal to the amount of copper present in the sample. Then whatever the amount of iodine liberated is titrated against the standard sodium thiosulfate solution, where I am going to have the sodium tetrathionate. Along with that, sodium iodide is formed. And as I mentioned here, copper is exactly equal to the iodine, and whatever the amount of sodium thiosulfate is consumed by iodine is nothing but the amount of copper present in the sample. This is with respect to reaction. Now coming to the calculation part, we can see here we should know the weight of the brass which is going to be given after the experiment, and these are the observations which we need to note down, or the steps which we need to follow. And here the initial value we should be considering like 0 0 only, and the final value more than about 9.9 ml, which I did just now. So this is the volume of sodium thiosulfate is consumed by 25 ml of brass solution. So accordingly we have to perform 2 more titrations and we have to note down the mean, and with the help of that, so we have to go for these calculations. Since we have taken 63.54, that is 1 cc of 1 normal sodium thiosulfate is equal to 63.54 milligram of copper. That is nothing but 63.54 is nothing but is the molecular weight of the copper. So now to calculate the amount of copper present in 25 ml, we have to go for like this mean, that is a Burette reading. Then we have to take 63.54, then we have to take 63.54 into x. X is nothing but the normality of the sodium thiosulfate divided by 1000. Then we are going to get the quantity present in 25 ml. Then that into 100 divided by weight of a brass piece. By doing so, we are going to get the percentage of copper present in a given brass solution. So this is it with respect to estimation of percentage of copper in a given brass solution using standard sodium thiosulfate solution. Thank you.